and welcome to our program Where God Weeps, a program where we talk about the reality of the suffering church around the world. Malta, it's a small island located in the middle of the Mediterranean. Its strategic location makes it a natural bridge between Africa and Europe, and this has generated a significant traffic of migrants trying to find a better living. This presents a significant challenge for the government and for the Catholic Church in this country. To learn more about the work that the Church has been doing in this regard in Malta, it is my privilege to welcome to our program Your Excellency, Bishop Charles Scicluna. Your Excellency, thank you for being with us in our program.
Thank you for having me.
Your Excellency, such a small territory, but strategically located in the middle of the Mediterranean, that's one of the reasons why you have such a rich history. Nowadays, this location in the middle of the Mediterranean makes this island a bridge between Africa and Europe, particularly for the transit of migrants from Africa who are looking for better conditions in Europe. Tell us about this challenge that Malta itself, and particularly the Church, is facing in this country.
It's a very ancient aspect of our history, which goes back thousands of years, that we're sort of a bridge between, almost a pebble between Africa to the south and Sicily and Europe to the north. People who, almost flood the North African coasts with spring and summer and early autumn, and wait to hire boats or buy boats and make the journey to the north. Either go to the Sicilian islands of Lampedusa, which is very close to the Tunisian coast, or if they're lost, they come across Malta, which is an island on the way to Sicily. It is a sovereign state, very densely populated. One of the aspects of our socio-political reality is that we have a high density population ratio, very high. And we have the international obligations as a state that every state has of accepting migrants who come to our shores, and to, if they don't have the necessary papers or permits, to offer them the opportunity to prove their status as bona fide refugees. As you mentioned, there are also people who make the journey from Africa towards Europe because of economic factors that, as we all know, doesn't actually give them the possibility to move forward in Europe, and they are stuck on a rock. And this is a problem for them, and also a great challenge for the population, which is already, it's not a crowded place, but 1,000 irregular migrants in 1 week on a very small island of 400,000 is a big impact.
It's a significant number, yes.
Significant number when you realize what the proportions are. The challenge for the Church is to be church to these people. Pope Francis has given an extraordinary witness to what our response needs to be in these circumstances, which is not easy. His first trip was to Lampedusa after the great tragedy of hundreds of people who were drowned in the Mediterranean. And he had this prophetic cry, we cannot ignore this tragedy. The Lord is calling to us as in Genesis, where is your brother? We are all responsible. And we are responsible not only as Catholics or Christians, but also human beings. These are human beings. They may not have the necessary papers, but they are human beings. As a Catholic Church in Malta, we try to provide these people, once they land and they are being processed by the authorities, help them with paperwork and with counselling when it comes to legal matters. And that is done in an excellent way by the Jesuit Refugee Service here on the islands, who have an excellent legal aid system that helps these people with processing their applications and asking for reviews of the cases when they are refused refugee status. And then we have centres where we provide accommodation, and also free accommodation, and also meals, hot meals a day, for at least 400 of these brethren of ours in a number of small community centres. So we have not opted for the great compound sort of where we place all these people, and we prefer, as a Catholic charities, it is run by Dar l'Emigrant, which means the home for the emigrants, because we Maltese had a great experience with emigration to the United States, Canada, a Commonwealth country, Australia, New Zealand, even Great Britain itself, in the 1950s, the post-war emigration flux. And we know what it means to be an emigrant. And so now people are coming to our islands, and we feel it is also our duty now we are on the receiving end. And when we need to help our people adopt a Christian attitude to these people. It's not easy because of difference of culture, religion, ethnicity. And this is the challenge we face. Fighting xenophobia, which is the fear of something which is different, basically. And actually preaching the gospel of acceptance, mindful of what Jesus says. I was hungry and you gave me to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me to drink. I was a stranger and you gave me a home. And he's going to ask us these questions when we meet him as our judge.
Your Excellency, you mentioned the visit of Pope Francis to Lampedusa, precisely to bring the attention of the whole world about this tragedy. And unfortunately, it's not the only one. In Malta in 2007, another episode like that happened. And then in 2013 also, these boats full of people. Is it possible to help these people in the boats in a way to avoid the tragedy of they being lost in the middle of the ocean?
Action has to be taken before they leave the coasts of North Africa. Unfortunately, these people spend lots of money to traffickers, to people who have no conscience, or at least they don't go by their conscience. When they sell these people boats that are not worthy, or seafaring vessels that are not seaworthy, and they are at the mercy of the elements. There is a concerted effort by Italy as we speak called Mare Nostrum, Our Sea, which is a very beautiful name. It comes from the old Roman name for the Mediterranean, but nowadays it means that this is our sea. We're all responsible for safeguarding these people who try to cross from south to north. But the Libyan authorities do have their own responsibility. The Maltese government has always appealed for an attitude of compassion and solidarity, which is truly international. That is, we Maltese, with our limited resources cannot give an adequate response to such a huge problem, but together with other countries, Italy, Greece, we can actually do a better job. But there are other countries to the north of Europe that can help us with accepting these people when they have been processed, and that is a very important aspect of solidarity. The European Union does give the Maltese government economic aid in this effort, but I think that we need also this human acceptance, the acceptance of people, not only money. This is the political aspect, but as a Christian community, we need to work on an attitude that fights xenophobia, this fear of the stranger. And as the Holy Father writes so wonderfully in Evangelii Gaudium, his apostolic exhortation from the 24th of November 2013, it is such a beautiful experience to be able to receive and accept a fellow human being who needs acceptance and experience the beauty of compassion and Christian charity.
Certainly, this is a place where God weeps, with all these migrants and that face such difficult situations. But another completely different area where God weeps, and I'm going to change completely topic, Your Excellency, with your permission. It is the situation that the Church has been facing lately with the scandal of the child abuse that has been going on. I bring the topic here because you have been very involved in this whole process. Recently, you had the opportunity to present what the Church has been doing in this regard to a UN committee. The result of that committee, or the final statement from the committee, seemed to be a little, if I may say, disconnected of the presentation that you had been done about all the programs, all the efforts, all the policies that the Church has been implemented. I want to take this opportunity because, it's not that common that we have the opportunity to talk with somebody so involved in this. And I want to ask you, what do you say about this, Your Excellency? Have we done enough? You have said some very strong and very powerful statements. Amongst them, you talked about the pain and the suffering of the victims. We are aware of that. How come still the media and organizations like this UN committee can't recognize all this effort?
I will not quarrel with the media. I think that this is something that we will always need to be very careful about. When we talk about sexual abuse of minors by clergy, we're treading on very holy and sacred ground. It is the ground which has so many open wounds. And I think that it's not about who is right or who is wrong. It is about a concerted effort to get it right. And we will get it right by acknowledging where we have failed and trying to do whatever we can to assure and guarantee our communities that safe programs and programs that guarantee the safety of our children and our young people are not only hollow words, but true policy. True, there were comments that seemed to be dated. They did not take cognizance or recognize the progress that has been registered in the last 10 years. And I am a direct witness of the progress registered. And I've had the privilege of meeting leaders of the churches, bishops from all over the world. I worked on this in this area from 2002 to 2012, 2012. So in 10 years, I could see this important development in consciousness and the will to get things done, and
very concrete actions.
And very, very concrete action. But I think that it's not about getting the prize here of the best presentation. It's really about meaning business. We need to mean business, and we need to deliver when we talk about having safe environments for our kids and our young people. And so this means screening of pastoral agents, not only clergy, but people who are involved with minors in pastoral activity. This means empowerment of communities, that is the ability to disclose abuse when it happens, and the freedom to do it without any fear of any consequences, because the community has a right to defend itself. But also the ability of the church to recognize abuse where it happens and to give an adequate response. The adequate response has to ensure justice for victims and also justice for the accused. It has to be also a therapy for the victim and rehab for the accused in order to prevent reoffending. And it has to be a reparation of scandal, which is also such a trauma for the community, because sexual abuse of minors by clergy is a betrayal of sacred trust. And we clergy need to realize that you have to earn the trust of your people. It's not a God-given right. And you earn it by doing your ministry, your job, and living your ministry as God wants you to do it. And we need the support of the communities in all this.
Do you have it, Your Excellency? Do you feel?
Yes, absolutely. It's not only the charisma of your state as your vocation, but when you look at Jesus in the gospel and the words he has for people who would harm the young, but also the beautiful words Jesus uses when he talks about children. You know, the child is the image of the disciple, according to Jesus. He says, if you do not become like little children, you will not enter the kingdom of God. So childhood is such a precious image for Jesus, of this disciple who surrenders obediently but lovingly to the Father. And if we destroy this image in the church, we're destroying a precious treasure. And we cannot do that. And then Jesus, who tells the disciples, do not hinder these children coming to me. Do not impede them. Do not, help them come to me. And this is something that really is the core of a ministry which has at its heart the safety of our children and our young people.
Your Excellency, I think that it is quite evident the efforts that the Church has been doing. I am familiar with, just as an example, with the one that has been implemented in the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, Virtus, which is, I think it's a very thorough program for formation and prevention and all that. But you have mentioned also in some of your statements about accountability. And one of the aspects that has been more criticized is accountability of bishops. What do you say about this?
I think that bishops are bishops because they are accountable, first of all, to God, who will ask of every bishop an account of his stewardship. And as Augustine says, for me to be a bishop is a danger. For you, it's a favor. But for me it's a danger. For me to be a Christian is for my consolation. And so he used the words periculum, a danger to be, because you are called to give an account of your ministry, of your stewardship. But there is accountability also to the people of God, something which the Holy See and the Holy Father in person has to guarantee through the ministry of the nuncios, and also the ability of the community to have direct access to the Holy Father if they have complaints about the stewardship of the pastors. But I think that the best guarantee of accountability is this hierarchical communion which Vatican Council II promotes in its most beautiful document, which is Lumen Gentium, on the church, the doctrine on the church, which talks about the church as a communion, but a hierarchically organized communion. And there is this body, the College of Bishops. The bishops are a college. They are a group of stewards who help each other be of service to the community. And I think that the accountability there is probably most effective if bishops help each other be accountable to themselves and to the community. Now, the Holy See may in future adopt structures of accountability. There is also a section of the Code of Canon Law which talks about negligence in the exercise of one's duties. And it is a crime to be negligent in the exercise of one's duty. Now, if this concerns a bishop, it's up to the Pope to decide what's going to happen. And we already know that Francis doesn't shy away from calling bishops to task, whether if they're spending too much money on bathtubs or jacuzzi or whatever, or probably even in the future, if they are not doing their duty in this important aspect of stewardship, ensuring the safety of our young people.
I guess you have had the opportunity to address victims quite often. What do you tell them, Your Excellency, as a priest, as a bishop, and as a fellow man that you're witnessing an open wound and in most cases very significant consequences in their lives?
I would change the verb. When I meet a victim, and I've had this opportunity so many times, it's not Charles Scicluna who does the talking. What Charles Scicluna has to do, or Bishop Charles now, is to listen. And I find that this is my service to victims, to listen carefully, with respect, with compassion. It's not what I say, it's actually how I listen. And I have found that listening with compassion and treating the wounds with the delicacy and almost sacred devotion, and it's like touching the wounds of Jesus. The wounds of the victims are like touching the wounds of Jesus. And there is a reverence there, because they are open wounds that cry for justice, but they also need the balm of healing. It's not about talking. It's about listening and being compassionate.
We haven't done it.
I think we need to do it often. And we bishops should not delegate, ask other people to do it for ourselves. I think that we bishops need to do it more often in persona, personally. Because I may not be the most, handsome man on earth, But if I'm a bishop, I have this calling to be Christ for my flock. And there are certain things that the bishop has to do personally, and I would say one of them is to listen to the victims that have open wounds that need healing.
Your Excellency, we would like to continue this conversation with you for days, really, because you have been right at the eye of the hurricane in all this, we can call it battle, we can call it challenge, so many adjectives that can be applied to this situation. But it's suffering, I think, for the most part. So we really want to thank you, Your Excellency, for this time. And you can count with the prayers of our audience and all the support that through Aid to the Church in Need can be directed to people in need, either migrating and also in this so difficult field of victims and priests that also need.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
You are most welcome. Thank you very much.
And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us in our program Where God Weeps. If you want to learn more about the situation of the suffering church around the world, please check the information at the end of this program. Thank you, and God bless.